Welcome into the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I'm Kay Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail and your host for this week's podcast. And speaking of presented to you by Phoenix Boats, as you may have seen on social media or on our website, the Alabama Bass Trail just inked a deal with Phoenix Boats to carry us another 5 years, carrying us through the first 15 years of the Alabama Bass Trail. It's an exciting announcement for the Alabama Bass Trail, also a very exciting announcement for Kay Donaldson personally, as they were the first sponsor to sign on when we came up with the great idea of the Alabama Bass Trail, and their support has meant so much to the success of the Alabama Bass Trail, but also to the anglers that fish the Alabama Bass Trail. Um, I said this to several people along the way that name, Phoenix Boats, puts such validity behind the brand of the Alabama Bass Trail. When you have companies like Phoenix Boats, like Rapala, like Garmin, that sign on and say, yes, we're here, we're going to support you, it really does validate you in the realm of bass fishing, in the fishing industry. And so I can't say just how proud and honored I am that Phoenix agreed to another 5 years of the Alabama Bass Trail and Alabama Bass Trail 100 and our future endeavors. And so that's really exciting to have that future endeavors there as well. So very excited about that. I know we have a lot to talk about. As you probably know, we've taken a 2 or 3 week hiatus on the podcast. It has just been an incredibly busy time around the office. Just so much going on. Having Angela in-house a couple weeks ago, and just a lot going on and a lot of things to get to, and unfortunately just not able to schedule time to do the podcast. So actually one of the reasons we were not on last week was the gentleman I wanted to have on, who's going to be with us today, was unable to be with us. He was out with COVID, and so he was unable to join us. But I do have Chief Matt Brooks that will be on the line with us a little bit later. He is from Aaliyah. He'll be here to talk about the non-resident boating certificate that all non-residents of Alabama will need to provide to show that they do have a boating safety course under their belt, that they have passed it, and proof of that. So I cannot answer questions about that. I wish I could. I was just aware that the legislation did pass in the last legislative season in Alabama. He'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll talk about accidents and things like that they've seen out on the water. And this is one way of trying to make sure that everyone is going through a certified way of boating safety. We talk about this all the time, the number of accidents that's had on the water, not only during tournaments, but just in general boating and recreation all the time. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about what the law actually is, who it applies to, and how you can go about getting your boating certification and the proper card or notification on your license that you'll need to cover that. But he is going to be on the line with us in a little bit. But certainly just because Alabama Bass Trail's been on hiatus does not mean that there hasn't been a lot going on in the fishing industry. I mean, every news wire, every podcast, every TikTok, everything that you see, every reel has something going on about the fishing industry. So many press releases and everything going on. And honestly, I'll be just real candid with you. Like, I kind of get tired of seeing it. Because it seems like everyone who's trying to grab those headlines are trying to do it in a negative way. In every sport, I don't care if you're NFL, if you're MLB. I mean, every sport has its negatives. You had the issue with the Astros, with them getting signals, with the transponders and all the things that they had going on. The NFL, you had the deflated footballs with, the Patriots. So you have something in every industry, and you just don't see every industry going out on social media and just absolutely beating a dead horse. I I guess because bass fishing is not covered by mainstream media, mainstream media covers an issue and then they move on to the next issue. And it just seems like with our industry, people have just chosen to take to all social media avenues and just beat a dead horse, or expose or crucify different organizations. And Alabama Bass Trail's been, targeted as well. So, I mean, I'm not just speaking, from our perspective. I'm speaking on the perspective of all of our fishing organizations, from high school to college to uh, opens to Bass Elites to MLF to all of it. I mean, it just seems like it's been under such scrutiny. Um, and I don't know that anything's getting any better. So whoever is out there thinking that they're making the world of bass fishing so much better because they're uh, doing all the TikToks and the Instagram reels and all the things, I don't really think you're making it any better. But hey, maybe you are, and maybe I'm just missing it because I'm over here working and not able to stay on TikTok and all that all the time. But um, before we really delve into a lot of the thing that's being covered and things that we have coming up on the Alabama Bass Trail, I do want to send out our deepest thoughts and prayers and concern about our neighboring states, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, and even one that's not so neighboring, South Carolina and North Carolina. The amount of rubble and things that these guys are digging themselves out of is just unbelievable. Apocalyptic. I've heard, biblical proportion of, destruction and things like that. I haven't witnessed this myself, but just sitting here for really hours and hours looking at the amount of devastation that's taken place uh, to some of these states and cities, and the long lasting effects of this. And you think about walking into your house and it having 2 or 3 feet of mud and having to shovel all of that out and all of your personal belongings. And then I think of it from a city's perspective of how are they going to pay to rebuild? A lot of these towns are tourism towns. So how are these tourism organizations going to suffer 6, 8, 10 month loss of revenue because all of their tourist attractions and hotels and restaurants and all that have been demolished? So I think about that working in the tourism industry. Um, I saw a video last night of a couple who owned a camping site in North Carolina, just outside Chimney Rock. And they said, and I will try to find it and talk about it on our next podcast. But they said about a week after everything happened, they had done a story about the devastation. And it seemed like immediately people went to their website and started clicking to book and booking a reservation and saying, I can't be there close to help. So I just wanted to book a reservation and give you this money. And one person after another just started booking on that campsite and booking a reservation, knowing they couldn't even get there. The roads were closed and they couldn't even get there. But that was their way of helping the owners of that campground, was to book a reservation and just not show up, just let them have that little bit of money, whatever it was, to let them know that they were supporting them. And it's things like that that make me so thankful to be in the tourism industry. And I'm sure that the fishing industry, is quite the same. I've seen them go through tragedy after tragedy and how they bounce back. And but it did make me very thankful to be in the tourism industry and to have people who run campgrounds and hotels and all of that are suffering right now, but that there are good people out there that are reaching out to them in special ways. Our on Kenny Cornell found himself in the middle of this. Kenny is our TV producer. You see him at all of the tournaments running a camera and producing all the TV and live, a lot of the live stuff out on the water. His daughter was at UNC in Asheville and found herself unable to get home because all of the roads were closed. Total devastation. It was several days before he was able to get her out. Now has her home, but still dealing with the fact that he lived in Asheville for over 20 years, has a lot of friends there, and a lot of them have not been heard from. So the far-reaching effects of storms like this, and so we are sending our thoughts, our prayers, and sincere thoughts and prayers out to everyone affected by this storm. People still missing, people without anything. And I'm glad to see that people are getting out there and assisting them. I also want to send prayers out to our own Angela Cross. She lives in Orlando, Florida. And if you're watching, you know that Hurricane Milton is on its way. It is in the Gulf, spinning up, expected to be a Category 3 when it comes through Tampa. She just recently moved from Tampa to Orlando, so luckily she's a little more inland than she was. But certainly thinking about her and her family as they are about to take on the next hurricane. I think his name is Milton. So be thinking about her. Hopefully she will be with us at the beginning of the next week as we prepare for the Alabama Bass Trail Championship, but certainly got a lot to go through before we get there. And when you think about that, the trickle down effect of what this will mean to our industry, uh, from everything from transportation, a large number of roads in the eastern section of the United States are closed. So what that's going to mean for a trickle down effect to our industry I don't think we'll know that for several months, but it is quite a sobering thing to go through from this far away. I know Kevin Allman and his family that fish with us, Brandon, they were kind of on the outskirts of it, but just trying to touch base with as many of our ABT families as we could. We did spend quite a bit of time on the phone over the last week or so, trying to get in touch with as many of them as we can to check on them and see if there was anything that we could assist with from here in Alabama. Luckily, everyone we talked to were good and did not have any significant damage, and thanked us for reaching out to them. So. We just encourage you to keep them in your thoughts and prayers as they move forward and kind of navigate this destructive storm. Another thing in the news, Bassmaster Classic champions Randy Howell and Cliff Pace are heading back to BASS to the Elite Series. I think that's a good decision for each of them. I kind of thought that would be happening. Didn't really see the Cliff Pace. I kind of thought Randy would, just in some conversations I've had with some mutual friends. I kind of thought he would, but Cliff Pace also heads back to the Elite Series. That's a good move for them, I think. A lot of uncertainty out there in all of bass fishing with the economy and the way it is. And we've covered that a couple times on this podcast, but I do think that is a good thing for them. And I think a good thing for bass. Those are two very, good anglers, great Bassmaster Classic champions. Not a lot of controversy around those two names in the industry, so good thing to have them back at the Bassmaster Elite Series. So be interesting to see how everything else shakes out. As I'm recording this on Monday for it to go up on Tuesday, the Opens are getting ready for their final stop that was moved from Lake Hartwell to Lake Martin in Alabama. So there's going to be a lot of people really excited about that. And there's probably going to be some guys that aren't too excited about it. But I certainly think that the decision was made correctly to move that event. The people in that area in South Carolina are doing their best to dig out of the storm and the rubble and help their neighbors. And it would have just been irresponsible for Bass to send some 400 anglers over there to occupy Airbnbs and hotels and eat-in restaurants and stuff that were trying to take care of their neighbors and supply rooms for people to live that have been displaced. So I think that was a good thing on the part of Neil Paul and the great people over at Anderson, South Carolina, and Bass in moving that tournament. Of course, I'm tickled to death it's in Alabama. It'll be a great revenue generator for over in Alexander City, our great friends over there in Tallapoosa County. So excited for them and excited to have what will qualify 8 or 9 people. I believe it's 8 this year to go to the Elite Series. So that'll be exciting to see that determination made there on Lake Martin. I'll be anxious to see how the weights do. I think they're going to catch a lot of fish, but it'll be interesting to see what the weights are and will live scope play into that event. I think a lot of people think it will. So I'm excited to see that and thankful for Sandra Fuller and everyone over at Alexander City Tallapoosa Tourism for being proactive and getting that tournament to Lake Martin. So a lot of fun there. I will say Bass has another event slated that may or may not take place in its original location. The Bass Team Championship is slated for the Ouachita River in the first week of December. We know we send 18 teams to that event. We were notified a couple weeks ago that the Corps of Engineers has that lake shut down or has that river shut down. They are working on one of the locks on the river system and not sure if they'll be done by the 1st of December in order for that tournament to move forward. Got an email from Bass this morning saying that they've been in touch with the Corps. They had a long meeting with them, and hopefully by the 1st of next week, they'll have a decision as to whether to move forward or if they will have to move that event to a different body of water. So just kind of holding on that. We have not registered anyone for that yet, just simply because we don't know where it's going to be or who may still go depending on where it goes and all of that. But I have spoken with Bass, and I think they know as well as everyone that that decision needs to be made sooner rather than later. A lot of people have already made reservations for that, and to get their money back from Airbnb may take some time. So I know Bass is well aware of that. So hopefully they'll make that decision soon. Talked a little bit about the open that's going to be there, and then the other news item, I covered it just a little bit. Effective October 1, Alabama now requires that all non-residents have a boater safety course, and they must have proof that they have passed it. We're going to talk to Chief Matt Brooks here in just a little bit with ALEA. That is the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. He is with the Marine Police, and he will talk to us a little bit about that, proper ways that you can go about getting that and getting proof that you have passed that. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get Matt on the line. But first of all, we're going to take a quick break, let you hear from a couple of our sponsors, and we'll be right back with you with the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. We'll be right back.
It's the moment when everything is on the line and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. All born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water. Power Pole.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And as I promised, Chief Matt Brooks with ALEA is on the line with us. He's going to talk about the new legislation that is effective October 1. Chief, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, ma'am. How about you?
Doing just great, doing great. As you know, the Alabama Bass Trail has anglers coming in from 12 different states. And so when this started circulating on social media, we were inundated with questions. And, you know, I know a little bit about fishing. I know a little bit about running fishing organizations. I know nothing about being in the Marine patrol or law enforcement area. So I thought the best thing to do was to get you on and let you talk a little bit about the legislation, kind of why it was talked about and passed, and then talk about how our guys can go about making sure that they have the right proof of boating safety course. So if you would, talk a little bit about what entered into getting this legislation passed.
Well, as you know, Alabama was probably, if not the first, it was one of the first 2 or 3 states that required mandatory boating safety education as part of our boater safety program. And that happened back in 1994. There was a 5-year grace period at that time to allow state residents the opportunity to have their regular driver's license renewed at least once, so that they could have the vessel endorsement placed on it without any fees being incurred other than the $5 issuance fee. And at that time, we were looking to find a way to cut down on accidents and keep the water safe for everyone, not just state residents. But we were among the first states to require that. And everybody calls that an Alabama vessel operator's license or an Alabama boating license. And in the past 30 years that we have had that law, we have definitely seen an impact on the waters. We have seen our accidents go down. We've seen our fatalities go down, our injuries go down, which is what we were always gearing toward. So this is a natural extension of that program in that it now requires out-of-state residents who come here to have one of 2 things: either proof of boating safety education that they've obtained in their state, or an Alabama non-resident vessel operator's license. So there's a choice that they have there to make when it comes time to go into compliance.
Okay. You know, I would say Alabama's waterways have probably busier than they've ever been. With just seeing the number of boats up and down the highway, it's amazing to me the number of tournaments that are going on all over the state, not just the Alabama Bass Trail. So I would say probably the use of the Alabama waterways are probably up 25-30% over the last 5 years.
Well, I'm not sure about the statistical increase, but anecdotally, I can say for sure that we have enjoyed an increase in recreational traffic taking opportunities of the waterways that we offer. And one of the things that I always like to talk about and that I'm very proud of is Alabama has over 1 million acres of recreational waters that are available to members of the public to come and use. So our job, of course, is to keep things as safe as possible on that 1,000,000 acres. But it's also a destination place. Alabama has a number of lakes inland, such as Gunnersville, Lake Martin, that compete with our coastal waters as well when it attracts out-of-state boaters. So it's a very good place to live and to boat.
I would agree with you. One of the top questions that we've received is where people need to go to take their boater safety course. So, do you have, is it online? Do they need to go into their DMV? How would they need to go about taking their boater safety course?
Okay, so this depends on what the person chooses to do. If they're going to comply with the law by taking what their state offers, then that's the first thing I would do is go to that state's website and see what the steps are to meet that certification or education requirement. For example, all 4 states around the state of Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Florida all require mandatory boater safety education of some portions of their population in order to operate in that particular state. So the option there for the non-resident who wants to come to Alabama is to take and complete that process and have proof that's issued by the state that they've completed it in their possession, along with a valid ID that shows that they're an out-of-state resident whenever one of our officers approaches them. The flip side to that is they choose to get the non-resident Alabama vessel operator's license, then they can go to our website and follow the steps there, which involve an extra step. Once they complete the education requirement, then they would need to come to a license examiner's office in the state of Alabama to have the actual document issued to them. And it takes the form of a regular driver license type document, except it clearly says non-resident vessel operators only. And I will point out this, that not all states require all of their portions of their populations to have this. So at that point, the individual from out of state has a choice to make if they want to voluntarily take and complete that in their state. Otherwise, they would be required to have the non-resident vessel operator's license issued by Alabama.
Okay, so if I'm in Georgia and I don't have to have it, if I'm 65 years or over, I don't have to have a vessel license. If I come to Alabama and operate my vessel on Alabama water, I still have to have it from Alabama.
No, you could voluntarily complete what Georgia offers and get the Georgia boater safety card.
Okay. Okay.
That's probably going to be the easiest approach for most people, and
Yeah.
that's why we're providing that information.
Yeah. Okay. Are there other courses online that they can do if their state does not offer a boating safety course that is accepted by Alabama?
Well, another thing to keep in mind is that completing a boating safety course is just the first step in obtaining the correct document. Like in
Okay.
Georgia, you would have to complete one of the courses that's approved by the state of Georgia in order to get your Georgia boater safety card. So the actual document that they'll need to carry with them will be what's issued by the state and not
Okay.
what's issued by the education vendor. And
Okay.
nearly every state has NASBLA approved courses that they can take online or in person, including Georgia and of course Alabama does as well.
Okay. So I just want to reiterate, it's not enough that you've taken the course. You've got to get the proper documentation saying that you've taken it and that you've passed it, and your state gives you your card recognizing that. So that's what you'll need to supply to any officer in the event that you're pulled over. We talk a lot about that. We check driver's license and fishing license at our first tournament of the year, and then we also do it at our championship because Alabama license expire August 30th. So I've always had this question posed, and this is something totally off the cuff, but I've been asked several times why we check driver's license at our meetings, that doesn't have anything to do with their vessel license. Am I correct in that they must have a valid driver's license or an ID? I know 65 or older or whatever in Alabama doesn't necessarily have to have a fishing license, but do they have to possess a valid ID if your officers pull them over?
Well, they're going to need something to prove to us that they're an out-of-state resident.
Okay. Okay.
So that's, and of course you want to carry some form of identification along with you in case you're involved in any type of an emergency.
Right.
But no, it is not. It is not a state requirement.
Okay. Okay.
They
I
are
just
going to
saw.
have to verify to us. They are going to have to verify to us that they're an out-of-state resident, though.
Okay. All right. That is one thing I've always said. We want it mainly to just prove who they are, and then also if they're in any kind of accident or anything that we have uh, shown that we know who they are. So if someone is looking for the Alabama safety course that they can take, what website would they need to go to?
They would need to go to www.alea.gov, and we just posted a whole schedule of fall classes that we've recently set up.
Okay. All right. That is alea.gov, alea.gov. That's the website you need to go to. There is a list of those dates and locations available on the website. If you have any questions, there's probably quite a few FAQs on your website, if I had to guess.
There's enough information that people can be pointed in the direction that they need to go to. And the exemption that we had up until September 30th, that's been removed as well. So that was causing a little bit of confusion. That's no longer listed because the law no longer applies to that.
Okay. All right. Anything else that you feel like our listeners need to know about the October 1 non-resident boating safety certificate before we get off this podcast?
No, ma'am, other than just always check the laws of the states that you're going to be operating in and make sure you're in compliance. And of course, we recommend you wear your PFD.
Always, always, always. We go over that about 50 times a meeting. All my guys will tell you that I am a stiff stickler about PFDs. Well, Chief, I appreciate you taking time today to be on. I know you've got some other meetings to get to. This is Chief Matt Brooks with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency covering the non-resident boating safety certification that you'll need to to boat on Alabama waters, not necessarily fish, but to boat on Alabama waters. Thank you for taking time to be on our podcast today, Chief. We certainly appreciate it. And thank you for all the officers out there doing their part to keep Alabama waters safe.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. All right, guys, there you have it. Chief Matt Brooks. He is with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. Matt has been a great asset to have on several occasions on the Alabama Bass Trail. We're able to run things by him pretty often, and he always makes it so easy to get in touch with him. So we thank him for being a part of today's podcast. We'll be back in just a moment. We'll wrap this thing up on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Y'all stay tuned.
I've been with Jax for 25 years. Hey! And I've seen my share of game days here in Tuscaloosa, and nothing brings us together like football and good food. Good luck, y'all. We're firing up the grill with our new Steakhouse Bacon Burger and Steakhouse Patty Melt. 2 all-beef patties, mushrooms, onions, melted Swiss, and our signature steak sauce. Whichever way you go, you're gonna win. Scored a new Steakhouse Bacon Burger or Steakhouse Patty Melt from Jax. I'm Taylor Kitchens, and I'm all about the South.
I want to thank Chief Matt Brooks, again for being on with us to cover all of the things that you need to know. Please make sure that you have taken, passed, and have the proof that you've passed a boater safety course. Just a reminder, if you're in an Alabama Bass Trail event or most major fishing events, if you are caught and given a ticket during the event for something like this, you will be disqualified from competition. I can tell you on the Alabama Bass Trail, if you're given a ticket, you will receive a disqualification. So just wanted to cover that with you. Also, let's talk a little bit about the Lay Lake Championship. I was just hoping I would be able to get Mr. Wesley Gore on the phone, and I am going to be able to do that. So I'll give him a call in just a minute. We are 10 days away from the championship on Lay Lake. Emma, my daughter, and I rode down to Columbiana last week. We did a site inspection there at the Shelby County Arts Building, as well as riding out to Beeswax Landing. And I mean, props to the Shelby County Commission, props to Shelby County for everything they've done out at Beeswax. You know, it was great when they put the pavilion in and the crappie cleaning center that they have. And then, several years later, they improved the parking and added, 100 or so parking spots there to allow for big tournaments like the Alabama Bass Trail to come there. And then I was just there, and I've seen pictures of the docks, but I'd not actually seen them in person. Expanded the amount of floating docks that's there. They actually cleaned out a lot of the underbrush. So the visibility of the lake is just phenomenal. So just props to them for seeing the benefit of improving their facilities and having boating and fishing in their community. They have done a lot, and they've taken a lot of that on their own shoulders and not relied on other organizations to get started. They've just gone out there and done it. And I mean, what a testament to what fishing and boating means to Shelby County. There's no better way of showing what it means than when they take their own dollars and invest it and to create such a great fishing destination. So my hat's off to everyone there in Shelby County. Chad Scroggins and all the people there are just doing a fantastic job. Miss Kendall Williams, that is keeping pace with bringing tournaments and events into that area. It's just a lot of fun to go there and see, communities taking their own dollars and investing. So we're going to get Wesley on the line here in just a minute and let him talk to you a little bit about Lay Lake and what he expects to see. And he's going to be a little ride along boat captain for Mr. Darian Craig. So going to be fun to have Wesley out there giving some commentary as well on Alabama Bass Trail Live. But we're going to take another short break and then come back and have Wesley on the line. Let me get him dialed in, and we'll be back in just a minute on the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Y'all stay tuned. You don't want to miss rookie Bassmaster Elite sensation Wesley Gore had a phenomenal year on the Bassmaster Elites, but he's going to be here to talk about Lay Lake, what he thinks it's going to take to win, and if there are any teams that he's got his eyes on. So we'll be back in just a minute. Y'all stay tuned.
Things you let me see.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And I gave you a little hint earlier. Mr. Wesley Gore, Bassmaster Elite Series Angler. Wesley Gore, man, it never gets old saying that.
No, it's definitely I guess a name that I can go by and not be happy about. That's usually one that you don't look down upon. So.
No.
I like that title a lot better than what it was before as an opens angler.
Well, I always refer to you as an Alabama Bass Trail angler, so that of
Right.
course too was
That's still
also
better than opens.
Dude, you had a phenomenal year on the Elite Series. On probably one of the most controversial years in bass fishing. You had a phenomenal year, so just kind of talk about that. What were your expectations going in?
I guess my expectations would just have been to make the classic. I mean, I guess that would be a goal more than an expectation. I didn't know what to expect. I have a smaller, I guess, group than everybody else. I talked to a few people and just kind of do my own thing, so I didn't get involved with everything going on, and I just focused on myself and fishing. And I knew that I went out there and fished as hard as I could every time and brought a limit back and hopefully caught a couple of good ones I could adjust every day and see where I was at. But I mean, it seemed like every time I went this year, besides one time, I mean, the first day I would be at the top part of the leaderboard, and I would have never expected that, which I called them as good as I've ever seen myself catch them this year in terms of weight with 3 days of practice. But I just went out there and had fun. I mean, the first year, there's no pressure. I mean, you're guaranteed another year. So I just enjoyed it and tried to soak it all in and made sure I done my job. But I will say they catch them a lot better than they do in the open. So you better catch them every time.
They do. It's a quality field out there. You got a lot of Alabama guys out there on the water with you, but they're all thinking about cutting your throat too. So a lot of quality fishermen out on the Elite Series. You got 2 more coming back with Randy Howell and Cliff Pace coming back next year. Qualified for the Classic. I know that was a big goal of yours. You've done that. We'll be there rooting you on in Fort Worth. Can't wait to get there next year to the Bassmaster Classic. But any thoughts on the new Opens and EQ qualify format that they came out with this year?
Absolutely. I think that's a pretty good that's the best change they could have had for it. I think that going back to 2 divisions with 4 tournaments, and then allowing the top 50 for each to qualify from each division to have a 100-boat field plus elite anglers at the EQ tournaments is a good way to actually, I guess, make it not. It's still going to be a long season having 7 tournaments, but it makes it easier. But it makes it easier in a good way.
Yeah.
I mean, the 9-season format is terrible.
Yeah.
I can just tell you, I'm so glad I only did that 1 year.
Yeah. I bet
because
it's hard. It's hard to compete in 9 tournaments. And I know if you make it to the Elite Series, you got to fish 8. I'm not downing that. I'm just when you sign up for the Elite Series, you know that, and so to speak with the Opens as well. But the Opens to me is still kind of a working man's way to the elites. And I think the 9 tournament series was very, very hard. Very you look at the entry fee all you want to, but what you're not taking in is the time missed off work, also the travel, the insurance, the boat, the everything else that you have to have in place when you do that and commit to 9 tournaments. So I didn't really understand allowing the Elite Series guys to jump in the EQs. I guess I get it if they're not going to qualify through the elites this year and let them jump in, but that I didn't really like. But it's not my not my circuit. So
I'm not sure. I guess they're compensating for there not being any co-anglers.
Yeah.
I'm not positive on that.
Yeah.
Because the last 3 won't have co-anglers, and they're a little more, the entry fee is a little higher, which that's irrelevant at that point, but it makes it a little more valuable to fish.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, maybe you know this. I didn't see this. Did they cut the number of practice days down in the Opens?
I didn't see that. I didn't see that in the press release, and maybe it was. I didn't talk to Hank. I have not talked to Hank since the release was sent out. I know they are really busy trying to finish up the season and then having to move it from Hartwell to Martin. I'm sure they have a lot of logistical things that they're working through and all of that as well. So I haven't talked to him. I need to delve into that a little bit more. I know Trey Swindle did a podcast with Luke the other night, and I did not really get to listen to all of it. So what's your thought on having the number of days or limiting the days of practice? Because in my mind, I think I heard something about them limiting it to 2.5 days of practice. And if so, I think that's good, but that's on me.
No, 100%. 5 days is actually what made the Open such a, it was so long, and it felt like a journey more than anything, because, I mean, by the 3rd day of practice, you're just halfway over the hill. You still got 2 more days, and I know the last day is only a half day, but then you got a half day to get yourself prepared, and then you're fishing. I mean, every tournament you fished, you were fishing at minimum 7 days. Then if you make the final day, it's 8 days. That's a super long thing. And in 5 days, what you actually find out, generally when the year, when we go, like the time of year, so the spring, and then you have some fall tournaments, you rarely have any summer tournaments. It completely changes by from the 1st to 5th day of practice. What you were doing the 1st day is irrelevant by the 5th day. So you usually get there and you catch them, and then you look for more stuff like that on days 2 and 3, and you're not fishing a ton. I found myself doing this, and my choice was always to idle. I was always a big offshore fisherman. I scanned for isolated targets, bottom composition changes, anything that was a difference out there. And I tried to do it in places I didn't see as many boats. I tried to get away from people most of the time, sometimes within the group, but I just wanted to make sure I had fish to catch no matter what. But even as, I guess, sneaky or as far away from the crowd you got, you would notice that it would change over time. They would move completely. It was rare that they would actually stay there. So going from 5 to hopefully 3 days, or 2.5 as they call it, that will help people make it not so long of not feel like a journey. Like you get there, you practice, you don't get wore out, and you're actually able to go in the tournament and be excited about it.
Right. I agree. I think 5, 6 days practice is just insane, and it's got to take a wear and tear on the fishery as well. So I would like to see them cut to that. Again, I didn't pay that close attention to the press release to see if that was mentioned. Something we've got coming up on a lake that you're very familiar with. You've won a ton of money there. It's called Lake, Alabama. You familiar with that a little bit?
I've been out there a day or two. I
A day
usually
or
enter
two.
tube out there, I think.
Hey, dude, I've watched you kind of grow even before you started fishing the Alabama Bass Trail, and it seemed like every week or every other week there was Wesley Gore wins on Lake, and man, it's a 12,000 acre body of water. The ABT Championship's going to be there. They have 2.5 days of practice and then 2 days of competition. Uh, what can we expect? I mean, it looks like the weather's going to start cooling off a little. May get a couple cool nights. What are you expecting from Lake coming up in 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, I think the weather, the temperature is going to have some effect on it, but I think right now on the position the lake's in, I've been out there a little bit lately, it's more or less what kind of day's present. So if you have high skies with no wind, it's going to be a really tough day, tougher than normal just because it's the fall time and you can't get the fish to react because you're catching them more on reaction baits and moving stuff versus if you have a day that's overcast and blowing that you'll probably see the weights jump up overall. So hopefully we have 2 days of overcast and wind and the weights look really well. I mean, obviously no matter what Lake's gonna produce, there's gonna be people that catch them, but I think you could see the 40 line be totally different after, with 2 good days of wind and overcast skies versus a high skies. I mean, it's 2 totally different lakes, I promise, when it's out there like that.
So
it's pretty amazing. I mean,
you mentioned reaction baits.
for
You're talking
myself,
about buzz baits. You're talking about chatter baits. What are you talking about?
I say you're going to see people they're going to catch them swimming. They're going to catch them on chatterbait like you talked about. You're going to see people catch them on top water like a spook, possibly some on whopper plopper. That's going to be probably what most people do, is throw top water. Then you're going to have your jerk baits that probably play into a whole lot. Just shad imitating baits, a spinner bait. I mean, that opens up so much when it's overcasty versus high skies. I mean, a lot of those baits get eliminated immediately in terms of being productive throughout the entire day when it's just sunny and no wind. I mean, it's miserable out there. It can be. So hopefully the cooler temperatures can, have some effect where the fish stay active even on those days that it's still, because after about 9 o'clock it gets pretty grimy. So the fish are still in like a fall. There's a bunch of fish in a fall transition, and there's some fish that are still in their summer stuff. I mean, they haven't moved because it's 90 degrees outside.
Well, one of the big things on the Elite Series this year and other tournament trails is forward-facing sonar. Do you think that that's going to play a big role in catching fish on Lake at the ABT Championship?
100%. That will be 75% of the checks.
Okay.
You're going to see
75% of the people.
5% of the checks will be from people that live skate.
All right, we pay
I'm
25
not
places
sold.
Go ahead. Say what you was going to say.
I'm not 100% sold that you can win on just 100% scoping.
Okay.
Maybe if it cools off, you can, but you can win if it's still. Somebody will win if it's the high skies and still kind of a day versus the overcast day. I think the overcast skies really levels the playing field.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping for overcast skies. I'll just be honest with you. For a girl who absolutely loves summertime, I'm done with 95-degree heat right now. I'm ready to see some cooler skies, some cooler weather, some overcast skies. I think that'll be good. Sending out 171 teams, a little bit different than the 225 that's normally out there. I'm not going to ask you specific areas of the lake. We've talked about baits. What temperature do you think the water needs to be at to really keep those fish active most of the day?
It needs to get below 70. I think right now it's upper 70s. I think in the morning just 75 to 77.
Okay.
Obviously up in the day, if it's still, it'll get up to 80 again throughout the day. The last time I was out there in the morning, so it was around that 75, 76 mark. But surprisingly, the whole lake will probably be in play. I mean, the top end of the river starts, if they generate anything, the fish start schooling up there even without water. that could be an option. That's more or less not my option in the fall time. I don't
Right.
generally go that way
Yeah.
unless it's springtime, and it's rare then that I make that. But I would say you're going to see majority of the field fish between the steam plant and the South Dam. I mean,
Okay.
there's just so many fish that live in that zone, and I'm not going to say one zone's better than the other in terms of catching the fish to win, having the winning weight. Somebody's going to probably utilize that whole zone. They'll catch one here or there every day, and somebody that has a good quality milk run with several different top stops will probably have a chance at winning.
All right.
You're probably going to hear the guy that wins. He caught one swimming or on a frog, and then he caught 3 pinging a minnow, and he caught one that schooled on spook or something like that. It's going to fish that way if it stays the same.
Okay. $50,000 on the line for first place. That's life-changing money in Kay Donaldson world. I don't know about Wesley Gore world, but $50,000 is a lot of money in my world.
It would definitely take some stress off. I'll tell you that.
I understand. You fished the Alabama Bass Trail. Go ahead.
Say that again.
I said, you fished the Alabama Bass Trail. You fished our championship before. You know the quality of the anglers out there. Let's talk about some teams, and I'm going to get my pencil right quick so I can write some of this stuff down. Talk about some teams that you think we need to be watching on day one Alabama Bass Trail Championship.
I got to go. They're going to hate this, but I'm going to put the pressure on them. It's Ben and Brian.
Okay, Ben Black, Brian Stifler.
Ben Black and Brian Stifler. I think they're both going to be in the boat together, and they've been fishing some. I do know that for sure, and they have a lot of experience out there. I've been in the boat with each of them several times, and they even know some stuff that I don't. So they will have an opportunity. You always got to pick Kobe and Chris, just because Kobe has such an unlimited amount of knowledge, and so does Chris. Gosh, and Paul, he's not going to like that either. But he's one of the best about going down there and figuring something different out. So you have to watch out for him, and he loves to fish in the fall. Noah and Cole, he's been adamant about going a good bit here lately, and they always seem to find themselves in contention to win.
Noah and Cole had a heck of a year. They had a heck of a year on the Alabama Bass Trail. I think they finished top 5 in the points, headed to the Bass Team Championship. It's been since 2020 since they had a win. They came so close at Jordan at the championship there. I think losing to Josh Butts and Stephen McAvoy there. But they've had close calls that you follow. They've been right there. Something tells me that they've circled this championship and that they're going to be hungry.
Absolutely. I think they're more of my style, which several of the people I named are. We're not very good at winning one-day events. We're good at fishing multi-day events. So it changes. I think it makes it a little easier where you don't have to catch 25 pounds win or 22. You can still compete with a good quality bag. So I think that as long as they can back that up, and then you also have the Miller boys. They're younger than the rest of the ones I've named, but they love to fish. They put in the time. They're going to work hard. They're going to be out there if they've already been out there, and they will catch fish. And obviously, I think it plays into what they enjoy to do. And as long as they can mix in a bite here and there, they'll have a chance.
What I like about the list that you've got, and I'm going to kind of go through that. Ben Black and Brian Stifler, they've kind of made it by one of them being in the boat at different tournaments. They own a business. They have kids that are in sports. They are the quintessential working guys out here on the Alabama Bass Trail. They've got kids playing sports. They own a business. They're doing all the things. So it'll be good to see them both in the boat together. It's been a while since I have witnessed that. They are both very good fishermen, and they did what they had to do to get here. And Brian's told me that all year. We've got to do what we've got to do to get there, because that's really where we feel like we will excel is Lay Lake in October. So I am excited to see that. Going to talk a little bit about Kobe and Chris. 5 wins on the Alabama Bass Trail. 4 of them have come on Lay Lake. They've been June tournaments. Can they get it done? What's going to be the key of them getting it done in October?
I believe it'll be they're both, so it's not going to fish exactly, obviously, like it does in June, but it's still going to be the same kind of setup to an extent. They're going to catch 1 or 2 up shallow, which I'm sure Kobe will find a way to do it. And then they'll mix in some different type of different depth fishing throughout the day. They'll probably be the team that does something that a lot of people aren't doing. I know that for sure. They never seem to be doing the same thing as anybody else. So
Interesting.
one of them will find a way.
We follow them from time to time, and it is basically up 5 cast and moving. Very similar to watching Shane Powell on Eufaula. It's make 5 or 6 casts. It's not working, moving to another section. I know putting a camera person on them has been frustrating in the past just because it is that. It's 4 or 5 casts. It's not working. Let's go somewhere else. I think that, too, is just having so many spots on a lake that you can do that.
Right. 100%.
Josh Chappell, Paul Davis, that's another team that you talked about. They put in a ton of time. I know they practice in 2 boats. They are a little more slow down, pick it apart kind of angler to me. Am I reading that wrong, or what's your thoughts?
No, you're dead on. I've been in the boat with Josh a couple times, and man, he's a worm wiggler. He likes to go slow. Trolling motor on 5. I always have to ask him if he wants me to bring my bucket seat for him to sit on because I move way too fast for him. But he will definitely figure out how to catch some fish. They just got to figure out what kind of targets they want to fish, and they will figure out how to catch 5 fish. I mean, that's another team. They do something different. They generally fish some kind of structure or a way that's a little different than everybody else, and who knows how they catch them. I couldn't tell you half the time.
They are a little bit slower.
They always catch them.
They are slower, more methodical. When we've watched them on live, you can tell that. And just the way they switch the front of the boat, the back of the boat. I mean, they may be in Josh's boat, but Paul may be on the front and he may be in the back, or they may be on Paul's boat and Josh is in the front. It's really fun to watch them on live. And they're really good to talk to us too. The team that you brought up, Connor and Caleb Miller, 12th in the Angler of the Year points, their first year on the Alabama Bass Trail. I was shocked. I'm not going to lie, just because of their age. But dude, when you spend some time with them on live and you hear the maturity in the way they're talking about what they're doing and their approach and their execution and how clean they fish together, like very, very surprising. And I'm not saying that to put them down in any way. It was refreshing to see 2 young kids with that type of maturity on the water and very methodical and specific about what they were doing.
Yeah, so they're very good. They make, they don't fish the Coos River a whole lot, but they do come down here. They understand how to do things, but they spend a ton of time fishing on Smith. They fish up there all the time, and they're very competitive. They actually just fished this weekend up there, and Bass Fest finished top 10, and I think they've finished in the top 3 or 4 the last several weeks, and even winning a few tournaments up there. So they know how to make good decisions. They know how to run stuff. As long as they can put together a milk run, they don't like to be in one zone too long, but they move pretty quick, but they'll be fine. So as long as they can keep looking at fresh fish like they like to do, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed watching them this year and going to get to do it again next year. They're signed up for the 2025 season. I hope to get to venture wherever the Bass Team Championship is this year and watch them go through that process. I think that'll be cool. And I want to talk about Noah and Cole too, because they fished with us for a long time. They do have 2 wins, but they have so many close finishes, second or third finishes that are just a few ounces. Last year, or 2022 on Lake Jordan, came in second to Josh Butts and Stephen McAvoy, and that was a heartbreaker. And you could see it not only on their face but on their family. Like, it was just such a heartbreaker for them. I want to say it's like a quarter of a pound or something that they lost by. But they are 2 very smart fishermen.
But they do very well. I know that things have changed, I guess, recently. I know Noah continually stays on the water. He fishes a lot, with Cole getting married and working now.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't go as much, but when they're back in the boat together, you can tell that there's something to be dealt with because they have 2 totally different approaches. And that's always good. You want different personalities in the boat, and that's one thing that makes them so dangerous. Noah's all uptight and he cares. And then you got Cole back there. He really does not care. So that's always good to have that person. at least he has that kind of attitude, it seems like, even when you're around him. But
Yeah.
I think they work good together. They will be running and gunning for sure. They don't sit still too long. And as long as Cole can catch one real big one behind Noah, I think they will be able to compete for sure. That's just the way it rolls. It's usually the guy that doesn't care, that just goes back there and flips his jig around, that ends up catching a big one.
Well, I understand. They're going to be a lot of fun. I think we have cameras on just about everybody you mentioned. That's not a surprise, though. I kind of knew the guys that you were going to be watching. I've studied Lay Lake results over the past 10 years and tried to really hone in on the guys I thought would provide great TV and great information on the lake. And it's going to be fun to have you on the boat with Darian Craig. I don't know if you know this or not, but Darian recently filmed an episode of Shark Tank that will be airing Friday night. So I think he's going to be very tight-lipped. So we're not going to know anything until after Friday night when he comes off the water, but you're going to be on the water with him on Friday. I'm excited for him and his company to get that, but I know he is absolutely pumped to be on Lay Lake with you. So looking forward to having you out with our live team on Friday and Saturday of the championship.
I'll be looking forward to it as well. We'll be running around. It'll be a little different watching the guys fish and not fishing with them, but so it'll be a little different, but we'll get through it and we'll have a good day for sure.
Oh, I know you will. Well, Wesley, thank you so much for taking time to talk a little bit about Lay Lake. Congratulations on your rookie year on the Bassmaster Elite Series. You represented the state of Alabama and our Alabama Bass Trail anglers very well. We're very proud of you and looking forward to seeing you in Fort Worth, Texas next year.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Guys, there you have it. Former Alabama Bass Trail and Alabama Bass Trail 100 angler and now Bassmaster Elite Series angler Wesley Gore. He's going to be out with us on Lay Lake, giving you the breakdown. It's going to be on the boat with Darian Craig. I don't know if you can take that much on one boat, but they're going to be out there talking all about Lay Lake, talking about our teams out there, and looking forward to that. So we're not going to break. We're going to go right on into everything we need you to know. 10 days away from giving out over $100,000 on Lay Lake, $50,000 to the winner. All kinds of contingency money there. The $8,000 Phoenix first flight money is available, as well as your Garmin bonuses up to $500. Your AM first bonuses up to $2,000 if your truck and boat is financed with them, as well as your TH Marine Atlas Awards money that is in play. You've got your Yamaha Power Pay that is going to be there. So lots of contingency money. Guys could walk away with $60,000 or so at that event for a 2-day no entry fee championship. So that's pretty exciting. You can watch all the live coverage on alabamabasstrail.org. Click on live and then click on the water and the weigh in, or you can watch us on Facebook at Alabama Bass Trail Tournament Series or on our YouTube channel, Alabama Bass Trail TV. So make your plans to watch, tune in, and see all of the action as it goes down on Lay Lake, October the 18th and 19th. Looking forward to it. We are 25 days away from the last Alabama Bass Trail 100 of 2025. It'll be on Wheeler Lake, my former home lake. Looking forward to being back in Decatur, Alabama. Another $100,000 being paid out, $25,000 to first place. And again, all that contingency money's there. Paying down 20 places, $20,000. Going to be a lot of fun on Wheeler Lake to wrap up the season and take a very short break before we kick off the 2025 season. So looking forward to being there. Just a couple of reminders. December the 1st is the final payment date for the 2025 ABT 100s. We will be sending out a pin on November the 4th, sending out a text on November the 4th to give your pin numbers and team IDs in case you have misplaced them. But you want to get your payments in on or before December 1st to secure your spot in the Alabama Bass Trail 100. Wilson, let's see, we're going to Lake Gunnersville, Lake Eufaula, and to Wilson Lake in 2025. Going to be a lot of fun. All right, December the 20th, and yes, December 20th is your final day to pay your Alabama Bass Trail payments. That is a little earlier than we normally do it, but we're actually fishing the first weekend in February, so we got to start doing things a little earlier. And honestly, and I'm just being transparent and honest, every year from Christmas through the new year, I'm inundated with phone calls, text messages, emails, Facebook messages. I don't have my team ID. How do I pay my payment? How much is my payment? Can I do this? So selfishly, I have moved that date prior to the holidays. It is the one time I get to spend time with all of my family together, and I don't want to carry around my laptop and be giving out team IDs and all of that. So December 20th is your last day to pay your payments. You can make $500 payments, or you can make your $1,000 payment on the Alabama Bass Trail. We'll be sending out an email about November the 20th or text message on November 20th, giving you your team ID and PIN number so that you can do that as well. One other tournament that I want to mention while we're on here is October the 26th, the American Baitworks tournament going on at Lake Gunnersville. You can find everything out there. We'll be making a social media post this week about that tournament. Going to have Bassmaster Classic champion Justin Hamner's going to be there. He's going to have his Bassmaster Classic trophy there, so you can take a look at it. You'll get to talk to him and as well. Glad that he fishes the ABT 100. But American Baitworks is a great partner of the Alabama Bass Trail. We certainly could not do it without our great partners. But we will have this flyer posted to our Facebook page. You can find it at Lake Gunnersville Fishing and on the American Baitworks page as well. That is October the 26th. Our friend Corey Banford from the Shootout Fishing League up in Canada will be coming down and hosting that event for them. Always good to have Corey back in the great state of Alabama as well. So make sure that you tune in. I think it's a $110 entry fee. They give away a ton of swag at that event, but a 100% payback tournament there on Lake Gunnersville in October. So make sure that you sign up and do that. I hope to get over there to the meet and greet that Friday night. As we look forward to Lay Lake, I did want to point out a couple places that are going to be looking for you when you go into Columbiana. That is Jack's. It is right on the way to the boat ramp. You can get in there and get breakfast, lunch, or dinner on your way to the boat ramp. Jack's, a great partner of the Alabama Bass Trail. A few other restaurants that are going to be looking for you is the Blue Agave Mexican restaurant, the local Oyster House, and the restaurant at Paradise Point. I think it's called the Point Restaurant. So make sure that you go in and let them know you're thankful to be in Columbiana on Lay Lake for the Alabama Bass Trail Championship. So that does it, guys. That wraps us up for this week's podcast. I do hope you will subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcasting app. Always, as always, you can drop us a message, send us a Facebook message or an email. Let us know what topic you would like for us to cover on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. Or if there's somebody you'd like for us to interview, let us know. We'll be glad to try to do that for you. But I hope to see you in the great state of Alabama, whether it's on the water or just driving through the great state of Alabama. I hope to see you out there. I wish you all a great week, and I do hope that you will take care of yourself, be safe, wear your safety belts, wear your PFDs if you're out on the water. But until next time on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast, God bless, good fishing, and as Big Daddy would always say, get outdoors. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabasstrail.org.